Alright, I'll tell the story. Jesus Christ. Maybe you commenting lag is making the stream lag. Ever think of that? Okay. So, this little rectangle, this represents my town. Alright? I live in this little dinky mountain village out in the middle of fucking nowhere. Okay? We don't have, we have 3 churches, 3 bars, and two gas pump convenience store. And that's the extent, and everything else is houses, and that's the extent of our town, okay? Now, we have a main road out of this town, okay? And 95% of the time, you use this main road, okay? Everybody goes out, the nearest town from here is 7 or 8 miles, okay? And that's the town where everybody works, and that's the town where everybody goes to school, and that's where everybody, that's the main town, all right? So, we got the main road, all right? But in addition to that, there's this side road here that it's paved, and it kind of goes in this loop. Kind of like that. Alright, now, people live out there. There's houses out there and shit, but nobody ever uses this side road. I mean, it's like the scenic route. If you ever want to take the scenic route outside of town, you can take that route. But most people just don't even bother, unless you're one of the few people that live out there, okay? But it's a really nice place to go for a walk. You know, people run on this road all the time. They go for walks. They walk their dogs because it's like a decent trail. You know, it's maybe about a mile or so, and it takes you right now in the woods. Like, there's a point when you get down here into this dip that there's nothing. You're just in the middle of the dense forest, and cell service isn't even really that good out there, and it's just this dense little forest. Well, at one point, there's this other road that kind of forks. And I've always kind of had an idea what was back there. It was like this guy's farm. But I never bothered taking it because I knew it was a dead end. I knew you can take this road, but all it's gonna leave is just to a gate, and then that's private property, and you have to turn around. So what's the point of even taking the road? So when everybody goes for walks, they just loop right around. I mean, they just take the loop and go back into town, right? I'm going for a walk on this path one day. Alright? I'm walking. Whatever. I come to 2 people that are in front of me. And like I said, people walk on this path all the time, so not a big deal. But as I get closer, I notice that they're not the typical people that walk on this trail, which are older folks, going for hiking or, walking their dogs or whatever. My town is mostly a retirement community. Old people have to do something to keep their minds occupied. No, they are young. They're my age, and that's weird because I thought I knew everybody that was around. There's not very many people that are around my age in my town. I figured that pretty small community. I figured I knew pretty much everybody, but I didn't know these 2 people. They were about maybe my age, 22, 23, 24, around there. It was a man and a woman. And I'm walking, and I'm about to pass them. I'm just kind of jogging. I exercise. I go for running, whatever. I'm about to jog, and I turn to him. And I just kind of say hello. Keep in mind, we're out in the middle of pretty much nowhere. I'm just walking on this path. I'm like, hey, how you doing? And he's like, oh, hey, man. And I'm like, he called for me. He's like, hey, man, can I ask you something? And I'm like, oh, yeah, sure, what's going on? So I stopped walking, and I ask him, he's like, hey, are you headed down this path here, down this road? And I responded to him, I'm very peppy in certain states, you ever do that? You ever, someone asks you a question, and before you even really think about what they mean, you just respond, hey, Matt, do you have a Spanish dick? Yes! Wait, what did you say? So they said, are you heading down this way? And I said, yes! And he's like, oh, okay, so have you gone here before? And I'm like, oh, yeah, I do this all the time. Now, I should have thought about what he said right there. He said to me, have you gone here before, or have you done this before? And I responded immediately, oh, yeah, I go down this path all the time. Here's the thing. That phrase doesn't really make... I thought he was talking about, have I walked on this path before? Doesn't really make a lot of sense the way he phrased it. Have you gone here before? You don't really say that if you're talking about a trail. You would say, have you walked on this trail before? Or have you taken this trail a lot? You wouldn't say, have you gone here? But of course, I'm just, bleh, so I'm just like, oh yeah, I've gone here before all the time. And, he's like, okay, so can we go with you? And I said, sure. And so I started walking in front of them. I didn't walk next to them because, once again, these are strangers. These are people I've never met before. I thought as soon as, oh, he just wants me, we're just walking on this path together, and he just wants to show me, he wants me to show him, where the path leads. And I'm thinking, well, it's kind of straightforward if you really think about it. It's a loop, but if they've never done it before, maybe they're a little confused. So I'm walking a little bit in front of them, and then I start thinking, this is when I start to actually think about what he said to me. He's like, gone here. Okay, that's weird. Which means that he was talking about a location, like a destination, but this is just, if we're just walking, that doesn't make any sense. So I'm like, all right, I have, under normal circumstances, a normal person, I think, in this situation, after you realized what's going on, would turn around and be like, excuse me, what did you mean by gone here? Because I'm just walking on this path, I'm not going anywhere. And then they would respond with, oh, we thought you were doing something else. Oh, we're sorry. And I'd be like, okay. And then I'd be on my merry way. But that's not fun. Because I know this place. I know this town. And I've lived here my whole life. And nothing even remotely interesting happens here. That's kind of like, that's very anime. But that is pretty much what happened. And I'm sitting there like, where could you be going in the middle of the woods? Like, we're out in the middle of nowhere. There's nothing. Are you camping? You're not allowed to camp in this area, for one. I think this is mostly all just, I don't know. I wouldn't camp out in these woods. It gets creepy as fuck here at night. There's, we do have black bears in this area. We have, shit just crawling. I would not want to camp out in those woods. They're creepy as hell, but they don't have any kind of, gear with them or anything. So I'm like, what do you do? Okay. So I decided, you know what? I'm curious. I really want to know where the fuck these people are going. But at the same time, I can't just ask them, where are you guys going? Because I already implied that, oh yeah, not only have I gone here before, I've gone here all the time. Or I've done this before a bunch of times. So I decided, all right, I got nowhere to be. I'm gonna play up the acting card here, and I'm gonna see where we're going with this. So after a little while, I'm still walking in front of them. I start to think a bit here. I start to think a little bit about, what I'm going to say to them. Just thinking for a bit, and I turn around, and I was like, all right, let's start simple. And I'm like, all right, hey, I was like, I haven't seen you guys around here before. Where are you guys from? And he's like, oh, we're from Pittsburgh. Thinking, okay, Pittsburgh. Huh, that's weird, because that's 2 hours from where I live. That's the nearest big city. So I'm like, okay, now this is even weirder. You big city in western Pennsylvania, and then you're out here in the middle of the mountains, pretty much in the middle of nowhere, really in the middle of nowhere, because you're walking on this trail. And I'm like, oh, okay, cool. My name's Michael, by the way. I do this all the time. I seriously do. When I meet people sometimes, I just give them a fake name and I just play it off. I've done this before. It's fun. It's a good acting exercise. When I was a kid, whenever we would go to an amusement park away from where we live, I would always say, my name's Steven, and I would just kind of play the character of Steven the entire day. You might be thinking that's kind of weird and creepy, but it's a good acting exercise, honestly. It's like, hey, my name's Michael. How are you? And he's like, I'm good. The man's name was Kyle, and the woman's name was Lisa. They were dating, and they seemed friendly enough. I didn't really get to know them all that much, but they seemed friendly enough, right? I didn't even consider at this point, though, these two might turn out to be, serial killers, out in the middle of nowhere, hey, yeah, they could have just come up behind me and slit my throat and dumped me in the woods. I didn't consider that at the point, but I'm glad that's not how it ended. Anyway, we're getting close to that point on the map I showed you where the farm thing goes. And Kyle is like, I'm getting a phone call from somebody over Skype, but I don't take phone calls when I'm doing live streams. I don't really use Skype at all, so I'm sorry, bro. I'm going to have to cancel that. Alright, so I'm walking, and we're getting close to the fork, and Kyle is like, okay, I think this is where we get off, right? And I'm like, yeah, sure. Now, once again, I don't know what's at the end of this path. I know there's like a farm, but I've never been back here, so I'm still walking, and I'm like, all right, how else can I talk to these people and really get them to tell me what we're doing without actually telling me what we're doing? So I'm like, okay, how about this? So I say, hey, have you guys, where'd you guys hear about this before? Like, where'd you hear about it? And he's like, oh, well, I was on this Facebook group, and they I was looking around for little events that were going on, and there's really not many, but there's one here, and so me and Lisa drove, a few days ago, and we were staying at this hotel, and we just, stayed here tonight, and we parked our car up in town, and then we walked down, just out in the middle of nowhere, and I said, yeah, I mean, it's crazy, it's really, really deserted out here, it's really quiet, and he's like, oh, that's good, and I'm like, yeah. So we get to the end of this path, which is basically just this dude's driveway. And like I said, there's a gate there. Gate is open. There's nobody posted at the gate. There's no security. There's no, people watching people. It's just a gate to this dude's driveway. And we're walking up. And it's a farm, like I said. You got a farmhouse, you got a barn, you got a silo, you got a cornfield, and then just the whole thing is surrounded by deep, dense forest out in the middle of the freaking Appalachian Mountains in west central Pennsylvania. So we go through there, and then as we are approaching the place, I want to ask them, are you relatives of this guy? I don't even know who lives here. But I can't do that because, that might tip me off. So we're getting close to the place, and I noticed that there is a bit of a party going on. There's, this little awning or, tent, something people set up for parties, and that's set up, and I smell that there's barbecuing. Somebody is, barbecuing shit up, and people are, I see a few people, not very many, but there's a few over there underneath this tent, and they're eating, and they're laughing, and they're having a good time. And I'm thinking, oh, okay, maybe it was like a birthday party or a retirement party or something. That doesn't really make a lot of sense. That doesn't really click everything, but I feel like that's the only plausible explanation. So we're getting close to this place, and then I start thinking, oh, shit. I've told these people I've been here before. I've told people I've done this, a lot. The second that we get close to this place, everyone's going to be looking at me like, who the fuck are you? And I'll be like, oh, shit. So I do, an emergency. I'm like, okay. And I pretend my phone starts vibrating or ringing, and I'm like, oh, hey, guys, yeah, hold on a second. I got a phone call. I got to go take this. And they're like, okay, cool. We'll see you up there. So they keep on going. It's like, thanks for showing us the way. And I'm like, yeah, no problem. So go up there, and I walk down the trail a little bit, and be like, oh, hey, Chris, how you doing? Oh, yeah, last night. Okay, now, what the fuck do I do now? So, and I think in any other normal situation, you would, book. You'd leave, right? You'd just be like, okay, I fucked this up. I'm just going to run away, and I'm just going to go. I did not do that, for whatever reason. Because a few things here still perplexed me. One of the things was, a Facebook group. Okay, you live in Pittsburgh, but you were part of this Facebook group that had an event that led you here. So I'm like, this can't be, a birthday party or a retirement party. This has to be, some sort of event. This is not your average party. And I remember there was a story I read. There was a guy on the internet. He told this story once where he ended up at, a vampire LARP out in the middle of nowhere. Paul Zigo, he's on the Drunken Peasants, and he has his own channel, and he told this story once where he ended up in this vampire LARP out in the middle of nowhere in this mansion. And I love listening to stories like that. I love listening to stories where you end up in weird circumstances without, you didn't know you were going to end up here, and what the fuck? And that story was really interesting to listen to, and I'm sitting there thinking, you know what? I want a story like that. I want to have a story where I ended up somewhere out of the nowhere and I blended in. So I decided, you know what? This could be my story. I could go there and I could have some wacky event, and hey, worst case scenario, worst case scenario, I just leave. I just run away. They're not going to catch me. I'm wicked fast. I'll just take for a second here to read some of these comments. They were going to have sex with demons, fucking LARPers. Would you go as the vampire? I would go to a vampire LARP, yeah. His funniest story to me was the one where the guy cut his nutsack open with a pair of kitchen shears. That shit was hilarious. Tekking pulls out his right arm and kills everyone. You have a death wish? These people seem nice. Like, if I walked up and there was, like, a guy with a machete, like, hey, welcome to the party. I'm like, okay, I'm gonna leave now. But I said, no, we're gonna try to play this off. So I finished up pretending talking on the phone, and I turned around and I went back up to the place, and nobody's, like, looking at me weird. No one's looking at me like, the fuck are you doing here? Everyone just is kind of chilling out. And I'm noticing a few things about these people. Number one, I don't recognize a single fucking person. Like I said, town out in the middle of nowhere, it's pretty small. I know a decent amount of people here. And when I say I don't recognize a single fucking person, I'm not just talking about people that I've seen in real life. I'm talking like the way some of these people are dressed is not indicative of this area. You know, you expect to see people wearing camo and trucker hats and you know, shit like that. And I mean, there's a few people dressed like that, but there's like maybe a dozen or so, maybe a little bit more people here, and I don't see a single person that is. I mean, aside from like one or two people, I don't see very many people dressed in like West Central Pennsylvania country. Even Kyle and Lisa are not dressed like you would dress out here. Okay, now I don't dress like that either, but there are a lot of people I know do. But I'm just hanging out, and someone offered me, like, hey, you want some food? And I'm like, sure. And it's hot dogs. They're not like poison or anything. They're just normal hot dogs. I saw the wrapper, you know, here's Armor hot dogs, have a hot dog. I'm like, cool, burger. It's like a cookout. I'm thinking, okay, fine, whatever. So by this point, it's like 6:37. Like, I went for this walk around like 5:30, 6 o'clock, and now it's starting to get 7:30. It's starting to get a little dark out. Sun's starting to go down a bit. They're not werewolves. I don't know where you think this story's going. If they're gonna try to walk, woo! They're not werewolves. Werewolves, I don't think, eat Armor hot dogs. I think that would kind of defeat the whole purpose of being a werewolf. I'm a werewolf, but I'm going to eat this hot dog. Yeah, not really. I'm starting to get like, okay, it's just a barbecue. I don't know what was up with the Facebook group or whatever, but not really much going on here. So I'm just kind of walking around the place, you know, and I have this cup in my hand. I'm drinking some Pepsi or Sprite or whatever, and I'm drinking this, and I'm just kind of walking around before I leave, because I'm like, all right, there's really nothing here. I mean, it's not a wacky story. I was expecting this is going to be a wacky story, but no, it's nothing. It's just a barbecue. You know, anyone ever here been to a barbecue? Pretty crazy shit at barbecues, right? Well, I'm getting ready to leave, like I said, and I'm just kind of walking around, looking around the area, and I'm next to the barn. Now, I grew up out in the country. I've been to the county fair every year. I'm used to seeing cows and chickens and piggies, you know, horses. I see horses all the time. Sometimes people ride horses to work in this area. And I you know, hear animals in the barn. I'm getting close to the barn door, and I kind of just walk in front of the barn door and sipping my Sprite. I look in, and at first I don't see anything awry. I see cows, I see pigs. Don't see anything really awry here. Pretty common. But then my eye begins to wander a bit, and I notice two things. The first thing I notice is that there are people in there. And the second thing I notice is that they are fucking the cows and the pigs. There is a naked man behind this cow, just ramming his meat rod into its poor, unassuming cow body. Now I ask you, if you just wandered into that, no fucking preparation at all. Not that any preparation would really prepare me for that. it's not like somebody coming up to me like, hey man, you walk in front of that barn, you're gonna see people fucking animals. I'll be like, yeah, okay, thanks man for the heads up. I still think it would be rather jarring there, but no preparation, no build-up. Like, you skipped to the fucking money shot in the porn. Not that I'm into this, and the slightest, but this is where we are. Okay? I want you to put your perspective in my shoes. Just, I didn't have a straw at the time. Just cup, Sprites, just... Oh, look at that, a cow. I backed. It took me a few seconds to adjust to what I was seeing with my own eyes. Fucking man on pig sodomy. I backed up. And I was just like, and I could hear them. It's now like, at first when I was approaching the barn, it's just animal noises. But now that I know there are people in there, I can hear that they are making sex noises, like grunts and shit, on top of the pig sounds and shit. I'm like, I can hear it now. It's clear as day. I can hear it to this day. Okay? And so I'm like, what the fuck? And I decided, you know what? I'm like, you gotta do a double take. I mean, like, I'm like, did I just really see what the fuck I was seeing? Like, did this actually happen? Or am I just am I having a hallucination right now? Like, is there something in this Sprite or something? So I kind of just, you might sound sick. I know that like 90% of you at that point would just drop the fucking, just bail. Just fucking out. But no, I'm like, I gotta know for sure if that's what I fucking just saw. Because the first time, I'm just shock, you know, just like, I gotta know. So I'm like, I walk up again, and I just kind of peek my head in, and I see him still, like, fuck, they're doing, oh shit, what the fuck, man? So I'm like, okay, I'm done, I'm done, I'm out. So I kind of like, I don't run, I don't like throw the Pepsi on the ground and start running like a fucking idiot. I speed walk is what I do. I speed walk. I'm like, okay, and I just like, I speed walk. There's like a hill. There's like the barn, and then there's like a little hill, and then there's the tent where everyone's still chilling out, which I'm noticing there's a little bit less of the people now. I guess people decided to filter out around sunset and go into the barn for all you can eat fucking pig sauce. I don't know. But then I'm like, okay, so I'm going back down to the tent. I'm power walking, okay? I'm power walking so intensely that my drink is spilling everywhere. It's like spilling places, okay? I'm like, I don't fucking care. My hand is covered in Sprites. I'm like, it's gonna be whatever. So I walk back down, and I'm like, hey, I gotta get going, guys. Great night. I gotta go. I made up some bullshit excuse. I'm like, I gotta get going. And before anyone could even tell me goodbye or wait, what aren't you, what, man, the party hasn't even started. I'm out. So I run down his fucking driveway, and I'm looking back, and a few people are looking at me, but I'm looking back. I'm still kind of power walking. The second that I hit the cover of those trees, I Usain bolted. I just fucking ran down this dude's driveway, and I got back to the trail. And I'm like I'm half expecting them to ride fucking trucks back with rifles, like, where the fuck you think you're going? And I'm like, no, I don't see anything like that. No one's coming after me. But I bolted to the end of this guy's driveway, and I just kind of like, stop for a moment, gotta catch my breath. And I was like, okay. And I walked away. I walked back up the trail. It still took me about maybe 20 minutes to get back home. And the whole way back home, I'm just sitting there, I'm like, did that really just happen? 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 Should I call somebody about this? Should I call the police? How the fuck would I phrase that? Like, 911, what's your emergency? I saw a guy fuck a pig. Okay, so fire, ambulance, or police? I'm like, I don't know. Oh, I knocked over my trash can. Oh, man. I eat all my food up here, so I knocked over my freaking... Hold on, give me a second. Dramatic tension. No story's complete without it. Okay. Oh. Okay. So, I got home, right? And I got home, and my mom was home at the time. And, I didn't tell her about it right away. She was in the living room just watching TV or whatever. So I walked... More bacon, sir! I walked back up, and I sat down here in my bed. And I just, at this point it was like half an hour, 40 minutes ago already, and I'm just thinking, okay. I thought about calling, but I'm just... more than anything, though, I was worried at this point, like... If I call the police and debating, because I know that's illegal, you're not allowed to just I'm pretty sure bestiality's illegal, but it's like, I call the police and they're like, what's the nature of your emergency? And I'm like, okay, listen, this is probably going to be the weirdest call you're ever going to have. I was at a party earlier tonight, not of my own accord, where there were people having sex with animals. So, I'm assuming that's some type of law that's being broken, so I'll give you the address. I didn't do that. And also, I was worried, like, if I happened to call them and the cops showed up and the party was over, then they would just be like, fake call, a prank call, whatever. And I didn't want them to have, like, hey, you prank called us? I'm like, no, I'm serious. Hold on, my computer, damn. But, yeah, that happened. Last summer, that happened. I didn't tell anyone about it. My mom, I did, but I didn't tell anyone. I didn't make a live stream about it. I didn't tell that story. Because at the time, it, now, honestly, weirdly enough, now it's just like, who gives a fuck? I'll tell the story. Who cares? But at the time, it was like, I really shouldn't tell this. I should just keep this a secret for now. But now, I was like, what the fuck? I don't care. I guess it's just the time of when it happened, I made that entire story up. Good night, everybody!